Vihare Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Vichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brachacanaranjana Yashodanandana Brachacanaranjana Yashodanandana Brachacanaranjana Danandana Brachacanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jayarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim yasam tato jayodiraye nashta praeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtike. So we continue our reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1. And we are reading today text 25 and 26. Now, after Maharaj Priyavrata agreed to accept this responsibility and also the Grihastha ashram, now we hear about the descendants, the sons of Maharaj Priyavrata in this text. And the shloka again is kind of doesn't really have a meter, which is so easily to chant, so I just read and then we go the word by word. And 25 also doesn't have purport. So. Agni dretma java yagya bahu mahavirya hiranya reto gritap shrishta savana medhatihi vidyahotra kavya iti sarva evakni namanaha. The 10 sons of Maharaj Priyavrata were named Agni, Dra, Idma Chvaha, Yagya Bahu, Mahavirya, Hiranya Reta, Grita Prishta, Savana, Med Hatiti, Vidhihotra, and Kavi. These are also names of Agni, the fire god. Okay? So, Priyavrata had 10 sons, and the 10 sons were named after the names of Agni, fire god. And then there's no purport. There is text 26. Ete sham kavir mahavira savana iti traya asana urdva reta sasa tat atma vidyayam arba bhavat arbya krita parichaya paramahangsayam eva shramam abhajan. Ete sam. Of these, Kavi, Mahavirya, Mahavira, Savana, Iti, Das, Trayaham, 3, Asan, Where, Urdva, Retasaha, completely celibate. Te, they, Atma Vidyayam, in transcendental knowledge, Arma Bhavat, from childhood, Arabhya, beginning, Krita Parichaya, very well versed, Paramahangsayam, of the highest spiritual perfection of human life. Eva, certainly, ashramam, and the order, Abhajan, executed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya. 3 among these 10, namely Kavi, Mahavira, and Savana, lived in complete celibacy. Thus, trained in brahmachari life from the beginning of childhood, they were very conversant with the highest perfection known as the Paramahansa ashram. Purport. The word Urdva Reta Saha in this verse is very significant. Urdva Retaha refers to one who can control sex life and who, instead of wasting semen by discharging it, can use this most important substance accumulated in the body to enrich the brain. One who can completely control sex life is able to work wonderfully with his brain, especially in remembering. Thus, students who simply hear Vedic instructions once from their teacher could remember them verbatim without needing to read books, which therefore did not exist in former times. Another significant word is Arba Bhavat, which means from very childhood. Another meaning is from beginning, very affectionate to children. In other words, Paramahansa life is dedicated for the benefit of others. Just as a father sacrifices many things out of affection for his son, greatly persons sacrifice all kinds of bodily comforts for the benefit of human society. In this connection, there is a verse concerning the 6 Goswamis. Tyaktva turnam ashesha mandalapati shreninim sadatuchavat bhutva dina kanaksho karano kopinna kantashrito. Because of their compassion for the poor fallen souls, the 6 Goswamis gave up their exalted positions as ministers and took vows as mendicants. Thus, minimizing their bodily wants as far as possible, they each accepted only lying cloth and a begging bowl. Thus, they remained in Vrindavan to execute the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by compiling and publishing various Vaishnava literatures. End of purport. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Tishatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, in this text, we hear about the sons of Maharaj Priyavrata. There were 10 sons, and 3 of them, Kavi, Mahavira, and Savana, they lived in perfect brahmacharya, Naishtika brahmacharya. And Srila Prabhupada then also speaks in a purport about how they like the Goswamis are also examples because of compassionate persons. So basically we can speak about these 2 things, and we will see also how they are connected. Purity and compassion, or purity, celibacy, and a selfless life. So first a few words on brahmacharya, something that we usually talk about in the brahmacharya ashram amongst the men. But since it appears here in the Bhagavatam, we can say a few things. And of course, when this is usually the scriptures are written by men, for men. Sometimes the ladies sing, so what? What? It's not really relevant. But when we speak of celibacy, then basically we speak about, for the man it means to hold back semen and not discharge semen. But for women, it basically means chastity. That's what the celibacy for women is actually chastity, because it has a lot to do with subtle energies. Because woman is very powerful actually by their energy. Like even the strongest man will be kind of bewildered by a beautiful woman. And therefore, a woman has a lot of Shakti, especially on a subtle level. And in Vedic culture, women were trained in chastity, and chastity means that they have this energy to attract men, but then a woman is voluntarily, not kind of applying that energy to everyone. Because once a woman is married, then it's meant just between her and the husband. Of course, then this attraction is there, but not towards other men. And in this way, she practiced chastity. so that also requires some self-control, because usually women, they enjoy being attractive. Like every woman likes to dress in a certain way and present. And then if she sees that all men kind of captivated, then there's a subtle enjoyment in that. Oh, I'm so beautiful, I'm so attractive. And of course that's what's going on in today's society very much. But in Vedic culture, women would voluntarily that's why ladies, sometimes cover their head, or they have, or just the lifestyle, the way we are dressed in Vaishnava culture is, it's a sattvic form of dress. It's not so much showing the body and emphasizing the body form. So that has all something to do with culture. And so that's for women, and for men, of course, it means. It's also interesting. Anyway, for men, it means especially to live celibate, and basically there is two ways. Semen can be used in two main ways. Basically, it can be expelled during sex. In this case, it's withdrawn and elaborated into gross form in the sexual organ under the influence of sexual will and sexual excitement. So, in one way, semen can be just, used for, of course, ideally for begetting children. Then it's a proper use. But if it can also be just wasted in other ways of sexual indulgence. But then it can be reabsorbed when the seminal secretion are conserved within the body. In this instance, the vital fluid is reabsorbed into the system and circulation, and goes back into circulation to form the finest brain, nerve, and muscular tissues. And that's something which is unknown to the modern world, modern science and medicine. Because it's a yogic science. According to yogic science, semen exists in a subtle form throughout the body, within all cells. And the yogic science explains that there are 7 stages. There is rasa, or plasma. Then there is rakta, blood. And it's like from subtle to more gross. So then blood turns into muscle, mangsa. Then muscle turns into fat. Fat turns into bones. Bones turns into marrow, like Knochenmark. And then it turns into semen. So semen is basically the most concentrated form of energy. And it says that 1 drop of semen is manufactured out of 40 drops of blood. Just 1 drop. So in other words, a body requires a lot of energy to produce semen. And of course it makes also sense, because semen is something it's potent to create life. And so therefore in the Yoga Shastra it says Maranam Bindu Patna Ta Chivanak Bindu Rakshanat, which means failing of semen brings death, preservation of semen gives life. Failing of semen brings death, and preserving of semen gives life. In other words, if one is losing semen just whimsically all the time, it will reduce one's lifespan drastically. On the other hand, if someone restrains, holds semen back, then that semen will be, transformed. We speak of ojas, tejas, ojas, this subtle energy, which then gives back a lot of energy to the body, and especially to the brain, as Prabhupada says. And that's why we have the brain gain. For those who are interested to know more about this, it's a book written by Dhanvir Goswami, Brain Gain, and where he just basically shows that it's interesting how in the past many great personalities they lived a celibate life. He mentions here. I mean, there is. Great ancient personalities like Pythagoras and Aristotle and people like that. But then there are also a lot of genius who contributed to society either through art or through science, and many of them were celibate, most of them. And he mentioned a few of them, like Michelangelo. He was just busy in art, no time for something else. Let's see here. Michelangelo consistently reaffirmed his conviction to remain celibate. The master artisan simply had more passion for art and for the care of his father and brothers than he did for sexual adventures. So he just had so much passion for art, that, and that's the point, because sexual energy is a very creative energy, and if semen is withheld, then one can express this energy in a different way, especially through art, but also through a very sharp brain, and therefore we have here also, Kant, Beethoven, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Tesla, they were all celibate. Like all the big brains, all the great personalities, they lived a celibate life. And it's described because it's described the energy that is lost by one orgasm, or like losing semen, is like similar to 24-hour study or 72 hours of physical hard work. That's the energy you lose. 72 hours of hard work. Like the body loses a lot of energy by hard work. Or 24 hours study. So the same loss is there if someone just loses semen. Therefore it's described that, if you have oil, in the ancient day they had these oil lamps, and there's a lot of oil in, and then there's fire. But if there is a hole in that lamp, and the oil is running out, then at some point the light will be finished. So similarly, it's described brahmacharya, it means you hold the life's oil, and in this way you remain strong and healthy. But if there is a hole, then you lose. And Mahatma Gandhi would used to say, I can affirm without the slightest hesitation that sexual enjoyment is not only unnecessary for, but is positively injurious to health. All strength of body and mind that has taken long acquire is lost at once by a single dissipation of the vital energy, Gandhi said. And it's interesting, this is so much emphasized in Vedic scriptures and in our tradition, but in today's world it's completely the opposite, right? In today's world, actually, someone told me, even in school, like children or just young, they come into puberty, and in school they are taught how they should masturbate and how it's healthy. This is something very natural, and they should all engage in masturbation because it's healthy. So this is kind of our modern civilization. It's like, sex is very much emphasized, and anything which says something against or restriction of sex life is kind of, this is old-fashioned, and these religious people, they. So, but it's for us important. We should understand that there is a lot of knowledge about this in Vedic Shastras, and Bhagavatam also describes it. So, and of course we know that in this world, sex is like everything is turning around sex life. Prabhupada says, in a material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maitunya Akara, or the shackles of sex life. In an ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. And the amazing thing is, like in an ordinary prison, okay, people are kept in bars, like they cannot go out, but at least they know that they are in a prison. But in the material world, people are shackled by the desire for sex life, and they don't even know that they are in a prison. That makes that prison so perfect. And by cultivating their desire to engage more and more in sex life, they just entangle more and more in material life. This principle is also described, actually will be coming up in this 5th canto, in the teachings of Rishabdev. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yad indriya pritya prinoti nasadu manyeyata atmanoyam asanapi kleshada ashadeha. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. Nunam pramate, pramate means mad. And of course, the greatest form of sense gratification is sex life. So if someone is completely absorbed in sex life, he becomes basically mad. That's what the Bhagavatam says. And what does means mad? Mad in a sense that you don't care about any rules or regulations. You don't care about what is good, what is bad. You just engage in it because it feels good. And that's also the freedom of sex, which is promoted nowadays, because all the scriptures, all the religious scriptures, they don't deny sex life, but they give restrictions. No, sex is meant between man and woman. That's one thing. No, that's a natural sex life. Sex is meant in the marriage, and then also there it's actually meant for, procreation of children. So there is always restriction in religious society, and any religion has such restrictions. But then in the modern world, it's all about freedom and just unrestricted. And but the Bhagavatam says it leads to madness, in a sense that one doesn't care about any law or any religious injunctions. He does not know that due to his misdeeds he has already received the body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Although the living entity should have not taken on material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material body one after another. Nasadu manye yatam atmano yam. It does not befit, sadhu means here an intelligent person, a sober person. It doesn't befit a sober person to again do the same thing which already brought him into the misery. Why do we have a material body? Because we acted independently, we wanted to enjoy material sense gratification, and therefore we got this body. And the body is a cause of misery. We think we want to enjoy this body, that's the goal of life. But actually the body is meant to give us pain. And we can see there's so many ways we can experience suffering through this body. And therefore an intelligent person should try to give up sense gratification, and in this way become free from the cycle of birth and death. Which is just the opposite of what society tells us. Right? So therefore, in spiritual life, probably would say that like an easygoing or a life of material enjoyment and a spiritual advancement go ill together. You can't. Or in the Puranas there is one statement, if a person, it's difficult for a person to reach an object in the east if he goes to the west. No, if you go in this direction, you can't get the object in the other direction. It's not. I mean, you can't walk here and try to attain here. So similarly, you can't, just indulge in material sense enjoyment at the same time you want to make spiritual advancement. It just does not work. It doesn't work. And therefore, in spiritual life, there are restrictions. And of course, the beauty especially in Krishna consciousness is that because we experience a higher taste, then it's not so difficult. In a way we have to restrict ourselves from certain sins, but then we get so much happiness and pleasure in spiritual life, and in this way we can continue. So, okay, that's one aspect of today's shloka, brahmacharya. But then here it also says, probably in the purport, refers to Arabha Bhavat, that means from the very childhood that someone is engaged in that celibacy, but then also Prabhupada makes the point that word Paramahansa, that actually Paramahansa life is dedicated for the benefit of others. So in other words, why people engage in brahmacharya is also to be free and focused so that they can actually help others. And 6 Goswamis are mentioned here. And this feeling of compassion is, of course, another quality of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava always feels compassionate for the conditioned souls, and therefore he kind of, voluntarily gives up his own pleasures in order to have time to help others, time and strength to help others. In the teachings of Kapila Dev, we find this famous shloka, Titikshava Kurunika Surida Sarvadehinam Ajata Shatrava Shanta Sadava Sadhubhushana. Sadhubhushana. Bhushana means the sublime characteristic or the ornaments of a Vaishnava, like the qualities of a Vaishnava. What are these qualities? Titikshava Kurunika Surida Sarva Dehina Ajata Satrava Shanta. So the symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, and he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. So these are the qualities of a sadhu. This is 3:25:21. And Srila Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport. I will read part of it. A sadhu, as described above, is a devotee of the Lord. His concern, therefore, is to enlighten people in devotional service to the Lord. This is his mercy. He knows that without devotional service to the Lord, human life is spoiled. A devotee travels all over the country from door to door, preaching, "Be Krishna conscious, be a devotee of Lord Krishna. Don't spoil your life in simply fulfilling your animal propensities. Human life is meant for self-realization or Krishna consciousness." These are the preachings of a sadhu. These are the preachings. Like Sachinanda Maharaj said yesterday, like Bhagavatam says that, you're an animal, a two-legged animal, if you're not Krishna conscious. Strong words, but that's the preaching of a sadhu. He's not satisfied with his own liberation, he always thinks about others. He is the most compassionate personality towards all the fallen souls. Therefore, one of his qualifications is karunika, great mercy to fallen souls. And then Prabhupada speaks about the quality of titikshava. Titikshava means that he's very tolerant, because while engaged in preaching work, he meets many opposition. And Prabhupada gives the example of Jesus Christ, who was crucified, and Nityananda, who was beaten by Chagai and Madai. But the devotee is very tolerant and still continues to preach. He is merciful because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. He's not only a well-wisher of human society, but a well-wisher of animal society as well. It is said here, Sarva Dehina, which indicates all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Not only does the human being have a material body, but other living entities, such as cats and dogs, also have material bodies. The devotee of the Lord is merciful to everyone, cats, dogs, tree. He treats all living entities in such a way that they ultimately get salvation from his material entanglement. And then Prabhupada refers to the Shivananda Sen and the dog, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave liberation to a dog. There's also Sachinanda Maharaj mentioned that Vimana is coming and liberated the dog. So that's the mercy of the sadhu. So Paradukha Dukhi, a Vaishnava, is actually on his own he's completely satisfied and happy, but he feels suffering by seeing the suffering of others. That's the nature of a Vaishnava. And we have spoken about this many times, and I'm sure you know these examples. Srila Prabhupada seeing a golf. You remember that? Prabhupada was walking by on a morning walk. They saw there was a golf park, and an old man playing golf. And Prabhupada asked his disciple, "What is this?" And they explained, "Well, this is a sport. This is a game. You push the ball into the hole." Prabhupada had tears in his eyes. Why did Prabhupada have tears? Because he felt, these old men, they are at the verge of death. They will soon give up their bodies. And instead of practicing Krishna consciousness, remembering the Lord, they're playing golf. They're wasting their time. So Prabhupada felt compassion, and so he had tears. And another, Shruta Kirti, who was here last year when we celebrated 50th anniversary of Prabhupada's visit to Zurich and St. Moritz. Shruta Kirti told the story how they were driving with Prabhupada in London in a car through the main shopping street of London, like Bahnhofstrasse here in Zurich, something like that, like left and right you see restaurants, people sitting there drinking, shopping, going to the expensive shops, and the ladies with bags of like shopping, spending all the money. And Prabhupada looked out of the window, and again he had tears in his eyes. And they were asking Prabhupada what's going on, and Prabhupada said, "Don't you see how they are suffering?" And it's interesting because sometimes when we think of suffering people, and we think of small children in Africa who don't have proper food. Poor people are suffering. Of course they suffer because they don't have food. But then Prabhupada sees these rich people enjoying life, and he sees they are also suffering. Physically they may be fine, but actually the soul is also suffering because there is a lack of Krishna consciousness. They have no idea of the goal of life. They're just wasting their time engaging in sense gratification. And there's another story with His Holiness Chapataka Maharaj in Mayapur. There is, I think, on the long building or some building there, Prabhupada was there, and then there was some barking of dogs. So Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada and Chapataka Maharaj, they would walk to the veranda and look down, and there were some food remnants outside. And there were some children trying to get some, they were poor, they didn't have any food, so they tried to get some of the leftover food, but they were fighting with dogs because dogs also wanted to eat. And actually this, according to what I heard, this resulted in the starting of Food for Life. Prabhupada said, no, in our, at least in the surrounding of our temples, there should be no hungry people. And Prabhupada introduced that principle of giving prasadam for free. But then in this occasion, Jaipataka Maharaj, he commented, Srila Prabhupada, sometimes I feel compassion, when I see this. Sometimes I feel compassion. And Prabhupada looked at Maharaj and said, why only sometimes? Why only sometimes? Of course, Jaipataka Maharaj has a very big heart. He's always full of compassion. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, Prabhupada used him to teach that why only sometimes? A Vaishnava always has compassion. A Vaishnava has always a very compassionate heart. Just like Ramanuja Acharya, we know the story, how he received that secret mantra, and then he kind of just spread that mantra to everyone, although his guru was very angry. But he said, well, if all these people can be delivered, what's the point? If I go to hell, but all these thousands of people go to Vaikuntha, then what's the problem? And that's the compassion of a Vaishnava. He's kind of neglecting his own comfort in order to help others. Yes, so of course when we hear this, we may reflect and look in our own heart. How much compassion do I have? Would I be willing to accept suffering for others? I'm not sure. Usually we are still quite concerned about our own well-being, right? And how much do I feel that compassion in our heart? So what do you think? What can we do to develop more compassion? Any thoughts? Book distribution, Haribol. Yes, but that's exactly the point. If we are not compassionate ourselves yet, we may engage in a compassionate mission. We may serve those who are compassionate. Srila Prabhupada is the most compassionate person. So if we engage in Prabhupada's mission, engage in a mission of compassion, then we may also develop compassion ourselves. This is Satsvarup Das Goswami in his book on the 26 Vaishnava qualities, which the first one is Kripalu, to be merciful. We may think, yes, Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada can be merciful, but how can I be merciful? The answer is that by serving the merciful great souls and preserving his cause, we can act mercifully on his order. We can serve the merciful Mahatma, therefore we can share in his distribution of mercy. We can distribute Krishna consciousness under the authorization of the merciful and compassionate great souls, and thus we also become merciful workers. A medic or a doctor on the battlefield engaged in the menial task of bandaging the wounded may lack a deep feeling of mercy, but he is merciful nevertheless because his work is a mercy mission. He is compassionate because he has enlisted in the cause of compassion. So it's a nice example, like in warfare. There's some doctors or some of the soldiers, they will help others and do bandage and kind of try to cure the wounded. And they may not feel that compassion so much in their heart, but because they're engaging in a compassionate work, they're also part of a compassionate mission. So similarly, we may not get up in the morning, oh my God, these people in Zurich, they have so much money, but still they are so much unsatisfied. I have to go and give them Krishna consciousness today. I have to, otherwise, they suffer so much without Krishna consciousness. We may not have that feeling so sincerely in our heart, but by understanding what Prabhupada gave us and by just being part of Prabhupada's mission, we can be engaged in a merciful mission, and then step by step, by the experience we make through our preaching, the people we meet, the stories we hear, then may our heart also become touched and we develop more and more that compassion. And of course then another point which is made here, compassion should not be directed only to the bodily needs, but to the spiritual dimension, which people suffer mostly because they lack of Krishna consciousness. And so we heard in this text about celibacy. What is the connection to celibacy and compassion? What would you say? What is the connection to celibacy and compassion? Yeah, if you have more energy, you can give more. And also, purity is the force. Because, yeah, sharing Krishna consciousness is what we want to do. It's an expression of our compassion. But how much can we preach? How much can we... Because what does preaching actually mean? Preaching means that we actually touch the heart of people. That we really... That we are able to transform people's heart. That they get touched and really feel like, wow, this is what I also want to do. But how can you do that? It's only if you practice it yourself. If you yourself have a strong spiritual practice, and the more you have, the more you can give. Because you only can give what you have. And the more you have a deep spiritual realization, the more you have that loving relationship to Krishna, the more you can give it to others and encourage and inspire them. So therefore purity is very important. And we know, like all the great book distributors, they always tell how in the morning the most important is to chant attentive rounds, like really chant Hare Krishna, really fully attentively, because they know the rest of the day I will be on the street and in a battle with Maya, and if I want to survive, I have to be spiritually strong. If I want to give Krishna consciousness, I need to be fully charged with spiritual energy. So that goes kind of together. And in this way, this Krishna conscious movement is wonderful. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to, on one side, to go spiritually deep and become spiritually pure, and at the same time then also share Krishna consciousness with others by giving Krishna consciousness to as many as we can. So from the 10 sons of Priyavrata, these 3, what was their name? Kavi, Mahavira and Savana. They lived in complete celibacy, thus trained in brahmachari life from the beginning of childhood. They were very conversant with the highest perfection known as the Paramahansa Ashram. So they were great souls, great personalities, and out of their compassion they also helped others to attain that spiritual platform. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, that's all I wanted to share. Any comments or questions? Yes.
I was thinking about this verse that the symptoms of Sarva, that he's tolerant and that he has no enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that when we were in the tree, and when Keshav Maharaj was narrating this custom of Narad Muni, when I forgot to say who it was, that his disciples came and then they wanted to get married, I guess. And then Narad Muni started preaching them.
Yeah.
And they took sannyas,
Yeah. Daksha.
How was that?
Daksha.
Daksha.
Yeah.
So Daksha became so angry and then he started criticizing Narad Muni. So I was thinking that in one sense, enemy, in one sense, but then also I was thinking that sometimes we see that we have such amazing devotees in our Orthodox movement, and some people may not always be favorable to what those devotees
Yes.
So I was saying that this verse says that he has no enemies. So I guess that doesn't mean that he doesn't see anyone as his enemy.
Exactly.
Because he's already on the platform, he's separatist. And then he has this vision of Pandita Samadarshina, that he sees with equal vision everyone. But others may see him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the right understanding. Yeah, if you read this like, oh, he has no enemies. But I've seen, these people criticizing, So, yeah, he has no enemies means that in his mentality, in his heart, he doesn't have any enemies. He does not see anyone as an enemy. Which is a great art, because if others really attack you, criticize you, then the ego would want to, kind of protect yourself, and then, how can he say like this? He's such a fool, he's such a rascal. So we immediately turn it around, and then we see the other person as an enemy. But such a sadhu, Vaishnava, he will not fall into the trap of seeing others as enemies. He will always understand they're also part and parcel of Krishna. They're just covered, and they're in illusion. They don't know what they do. That's why they are behaving like that. But he doesn't fall into the trap of developing hatred towards them. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I was also thinking about this, like you said that he doesn't develop any hatred for them. So I was thinking that this is really, somebody has to be really beyond this godly concept of life to be able to, even think that way. Because generally, common people like us, like we get in a defensive mode,
exactly.
Immediately we want to defend ourselves. And so how one can be really, because everything that is happening is also Krishna's arrangement. And then, we have these qualities that we should be tolerant, we should be merciful. And I also think that actually Krishna creates or puts us in a situation where we will learn to be tolerant. So then how a person can, see this, that this is arrangement of Krishna because he wants me to be tolerant. And at the same time, I have to, have this consciousness to not have any bad feelings for this person, because ultimately this is just an instrument.
Yeah, that's very high level. If you can do that, that's very nice. And of course, because as we also heard the last couple of days we had so much wonderful Krishna Katha, and I remember Keshav Maharaj spoke about the influence of, like when we make progress on a spiritual life, Madhurika Dambini, the different stages, and at the stage of Nishta, basically we become free from the influence of Raja and Tama, and we are situated in goodness, pure goodness. And Sachinanda Maharaj speaking of the traffic light, remember that analogy, traffic light? If something happened to you, usually we immediately react, like, you're such a, immediately we kind of, turn back. And then Sachinanda Maharaj says, okay, wait, traffic light, red. You put on red light, and then you, wait a minute, stop. Then orange, you start to reflect. What did he say? And how should I react now? No, I shouldn't become angry now. No, this is, okay, I just tolerate. And then green, I act. And the English word responsibility actually means response ability. You're able to respond in a certain way. And that the human form of life is a life of responsibility. Because the animals, they will just react. A dog, if another dog barking, they will just bark also. There's no question. No, they'll just bark. But in a human form, it's a responsible life of form. So then you have this ability to respond in a different way. But how is that possible? That requires some good amount of sattva guna. If you're influenced by passion and ignorance, you just can't, because you're forced to act according to the gunas. But the more you're free from influence of Tama and Raja, the more you become in Sattva Guna. And of course then you go towards Shuddha Sattva, where you actually, as you said, you develop this transcendental vision, also spiritual vision, where you have the Samadarshina. Only then you will be able to start, be able to kind of adjust your reaction in a more proper way. So there's a lot of inner work required to come to that platform, but that's what we're doing. Like our spiritual practice is to purify our heart, to become more sober, to become more. And and Krishna is very merciful, because in our daily life, every day, maybe today, maybe after this class is finished, someone will criticize us, and we get a chance to practice tolerance and kindness, compassion. So every day is another day where we can actually train ourselves in these situations. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I hear that you're saying that people without regulation in sex life are getting mad about that. And I asked you why you neglect masturbation, because better a man masturbate than he get violent against women.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think it's a really important aspect. We have big problems in the world, for example, or also in our societies, where masturbation is neglected and is something negative. But people get violent and aggressive if they not can live sexuality. So I think we have really to think about both aspects and not neglect it.
I mean, there is good, there is better, there is best, and there's perfection. There's different stages. Of course, it's better if a man satisfies himself than he rapes an innocent woman. I fully agree with you, but that doesn't mean that this is a practice which should be encouraged, or that doesn't mean that this is the standards which are given in Shastra. The point is that because people there is a lack of Krishna consciousness, and they don't have an experience of a higher taste, and they don't even know what is the goal of life. That's why they indulge in sense gratification, and they think this is the goal of life, and then they become mad because they are just going in that direction without any knowledge. So that's darkness, and scriptures give us light. They understand that there is a higher goal in life, and that's Krishna consciousness. And if people are trained in Krishna consciousness, then there is no need. There's no need of masturbation. There's no need of sexual aggression or any violence, because it's all about uplifting the consciousness of human society. But yeah, in today's world, people are very degraded, and nobody knows what is the goal of life, and therefore we have the situation we are in. You see the point? It's we have to start in the very beginning. If people don't even know what is the goal of life, then of course they think this is the goal, because it feels good, so let's do it. But the goal of life, there is Shreyas and there is Preyas. There is Shreyas means the ultimate good, ultimate goal, and Preyas means that which we can get immediately. And people should be trained. People should be educated that there is higher meaning of life, but our society teaches people that you just should go for the immediate gratification. And there lays the main cause of problem. That's what Prabhupada always mentioned. If you think you're the body and sense gratification is the goal of life, then this is a society which is leading towards hellish life. That's what it is. And therefore the duty of spiritual or religious practice is to help people understand that there is a higher goal. And in order to attain that higher goal, then one has to learn to control and restrict oneself. Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes sense, but
okay, good.
I have a little bit difficult about this black and white thinking, because I think we have to be aware that life has a lot of colors, and also when he got Prabhupada seeing an old man that was playing golf and he was crying, and he had tears in his eyes, and because this person was not focused on Krishna maybe, but this man was happy, and look around.
How long?
People,
How long?
Are they happy?
How long was the man happy?
Maybe
For another 3 months, and then he died, and then he had to face all the reaction to his sinful activities.
but
That-
playing
that-
golf is not sinful.
Play-
Playing golf is a play.
Playing golf is not sinful, but to neglect Krishna consciousness is to forget Krishna is sinful. What does sin mean? You know, actually the word in Latin, the original, the meaning of sin means to zielverfehlen, to not hit the target, you know, to lose the goal in life. When we have these examples of Prabhupada, which I mentioned, this kind of shows us a bigger picture. I'm not saying that playing golf is a sinful activity. That's not what Prabhupada says. But to play golf is just a sport activity and recreation, you can say. And if people, feel more relieved and more happy after playing golf, there's no harm in playing golf. But to waste time and to neglect God and to neglect the goal of life, which is self-realization, that's a problem. That's sinful in the sense that you lose the point, in life. And that's why Prabhupada had tears in his eyes, because they, in a couple of days they may give up their bodies, so they should chant and remember God, because that will determine their next life. But if they just carefree play golf and neglect spirituality, then they are in big troubles. So yeah, it's about having a bigger picture. Yes. Yeah.
When you were talking just now to this first question,
Mhm.
what we want to do. So one Srila Prabhupada disciple told me is like the less spiritual taste you have, the more material needs you or wants you have. The higher spiritual taste you have, and the less material wants
Right.
you have. It depends on how much taste you have in Krishna consciousness. That material depends on that. And another one is that happiness, and both this one comment. Happiness is found for every person in different modes of nature. So for someone who is in mode of ignorance, for him happiness is found in discourse or eating meat. If somebody is in mode of passion, also happiness is found in sex acts or things like that. Yeah, somebody who's in such organized, his happiness is found in God consciousness or things like that. So depends which guna we are in. Happiness depends on that, because we are so much controlled by everything.
Yeah.
Just another comment.
Yeah, and that's why Krishna consciousness is all about raising our consciousness to higher levels, where we actually can appreciate more and more Krishna, and the pleasure that we get from Krishna consciousness. Okay, I think we will end here. Sorry, I was a little tired and not really focused, but I'll try to say something. Okay, Hare Krishna, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Dai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Also ich habe mich gefragt, das ist eine technische früher haben Kriege und so jeder in die Frau kommt und also wo haben sie denn die Energie hergeholt?
glaube, dass ich eine gewisse Art von Persönlichkeit habe.
Aber also in Kraft die Energie und also ist mein Schlussfolgerung wirklich, dass man auch mit der Kraft zusammenarbeitet, oder ist das?
Also wir sagen, dass der normale Entwicklung diesen Enthusiasmus und die Kraft definitiv. Also heißt ja nicht wie große Macht statt der große Kraft. Aber klar kann man sagen, das ist mit dem das andere Macht so nicht so gemacht hat. Mein Ideal ist schon für die Kraft zu bilden. Und ich wüsste nicht, dass es schnell Wissenschaft ist. Das ist immer eine starke Frage. Aber ich glaube, das ist natürlich
Ja, und dann haben wir noch eine andere Frage. Das heißt, dass über 15 Grad, das also man die Grenze bringt. Und das ist bei den Frauen wahrscheinlich nicht so, dass sie sozusagen.
Doch auch. Vor allem, das wäre auch noch interessant, ich denke, dass es gibt viele Beschreibungen, wie die Frauen durch die Jazz die das ist das Tag von der Chester. Aber nachher, wo Kürtel und Chip und Gerühren und so, hat sie geprüft zu ins Tau zu machen. Und dann hat sie die Augen weggenommen und ihr Sohn angeschaut. Durch ihren Blick hat sie unverbunden gemacht. Also die ganze Schachtel, die sie gesammelt hat, durch die Jessica, hat sie durch die Blick hat sie geworfen, der ist schon unverwundbar geworden. Natürlich Krishna von größten Krishna natürlich von einem Schachtel, das geht wahrscheinlich nicht schwimmen. Dann kannst du einfach schwimmen. Wenigstens hat sie stehen, dass ich bedeckt. Wenn ich einen Job gegeben habe, ist das so bedeckt zu den Muttern. Nur Krishna plus Karol ist schon ein paar. Das sind die Schwarze. Aber das ist ein Beispiel von mystischen Kräften, die Frauen durch die sind. So durchaus. Was ist das?
Okay. So let's say you have This Makes me feel like I'm at home eating.